Hello everybody, this is our next video series, couple videos on how we're going to make a different kind of lampshade. And so in this specific couple videos, we're going to talk about how can we make this kind of lampshade right here, which is pretty interesting and unique. And in the other videos, we've been making things that are a little more organic, a lot of curves. And this is actually using a lot of flat surfaces. So we're going to go through that process. And one thing I would really like to mention is a plugin for Rhino called Polyhedra. And this plugin is actually a depository of different solids and different mathematical shapes that you can use. You can just type in polyhedron in your command line and you can pick a whole lot of different options for your polyhedron that you can use as a base. Now this specific plugin is found at foodforrhino.com, and when you find it, it also has this nice tutorial video on actually how to unroll and flatten different things and a process for that. So check it out, take a look, and we will dive right into it. So let's get into Rhino, and in Rhino I've actually already installed Polyhedron, so I'm going to go ahead and type in Polyhedron and look for, I'm just going to keep it simple. Oh well, there's a dodecahedron, but I'm going to find dodecahedron just to keep it simple. Oh, it's already selected, which is great. Cool thing is it has this information right here. So I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to select the home coordinate system, type in 0, and the output over here on the left, you can change that to curve, mesh, or surface. We're going to stay with surface. If you wanted to, you could colorize different shapes, which is actually helpful. Why don't we just colorize it to see what happens, and that's going to apply color to each surface. So I'm just going to align it with one of the axes and actually I'll look at it from the front view, kind of get a good idea of scale. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back to my perspective view. And because all of these surfaces are actually the same, it's pretty easy. And well, it's easier, but it's also, they're all the same color. So what I'm going to do next is I want to rotate this so it's flat, or the axes of this socket, or the cord that it's hanging from is normal to a surface. So it's almost perpendicular or straight up coming out of the surface. So I need to extrapolate some reference geometry, so I'm just going to duplicate that face border there, which I'm also going to use. Oh, no, not that. Duplicate face border. Interesting. I'm just going to go back to curve and duplicate the border. Let's see here. Alright, whatever. Not sure why it's not letting me select just the individual face. Curve from objects, duplicate face border. And interesting. Seeing is that one is going to explode it for right now. You know what? It probably was, oops, edit, redo. I wonder if it was just grouped. So it was grouped and it wasn't completely joined. I'm just going to join it into one surface so that when I go into curve from objects, duplicate face border, select this one. So depending on what your options are, the object might come in grouped or as a solid. Just be aware of that, and then maybe if you need to ungroup it or explode it, depending on what your needs are. So now I'm going to rotate it, and sometimes you're going to have to do this. Maybe the object or the polyhedron isn't exactly where you want it, so you're going to have to rotate it, and you might need to grab some reference geometry. And I'm grabbing this curve because I'm going to use its center, but I'm also going to use that curve later on to make some other geometry. So I'm going to come to rotate, I'm going to select polyhedron, 0, and again, always good to work on a point or some insanely slow, and it's honestly driving me bonkers. So now what I can do is I will, goodness. I'm sure you are also experiencing the same frustrations as me, but we will let the computer sort it out, and if not, I will have to, again, restart this program. Oh, wow, look at that. Okay, we'll go to front view, we'll go to center, intersection, so I'm going to say the center of the curve that I generated, and then I'm going to rotate it up. And it didn't. Rotate the curve as well. So there we go. Now we've got everything rotated nicely. I'm just going to grab this guy and just kind of move it down. Actually, what I can do is I'll just do a move command from the center of this object to the center of this object. Perfect. That's looking good. So now what I can do is I've got this curve, and if I want to make those sort of bump outs just like the one that we have in our sample here, what I'm going to do is I can extrude that curve out and taper it at the same time. So I'm going to select curve, and I'm going to come up to surface, and I'm going to select extrude curve and tapered. And you can see now it's just initially the direction of this is normal to that surface, coming straight up and making nice even surfaces. Now if you want to change that direction, you might get something that doesn't have even clean surfaces like this, and you might have to trim those separately. So I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to have it just a little bit above the socket there. And that's nice that it's also in a different color so we can see it. And then what can we do next is, if we want to make them all even, the same, we can rotate it back. So actually, no, we won't have to. We'll have to orient it to this surface or do a whole bunch of different rotations. But I think orient is probably going to be the easiest. So again, I'm just going to come back here, curve from objects, duplicate face border, just so I have that reference geometry for this surface. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to select this guy, and I'm going to come up to transform and orient 3 points, and I'm going to say the center of this curve, and then I'm going to turn my intersection snaps on, and I'll say this top point and maybe this side point. So I can orient, turn my center snap back on, center of this curve, and then the point here, and then the next one's going to sort of dictate what the normal direction is. And if I choose this point, it's going to be going in, which could be interesting. You know what, why don't we do that? And then we could do like maybe a hodgepodge, like one side could be up, one side could be down, and it could be maybe a little more interesting like that. Now, because it's right there, I'm going to actually mirror it so I can get a second one, and I'm going to midpoint here and then mirror it this way. No. Oh, you know what? I also forgot to copy it. Oh, burn. Harsh burn. Let's just do a couple of different orient 3-point moves just so I can also copy it. And then also I'll just do a couple of orient 3-point processes to get both a piece going in and a piece going out. There we go. And then what I can do is, can I select that? I'm going to make a separate layer for this geometry. I'll just do dodeca. Move objects to that layer. I'll hide that layer, and I can see that I've got these things, which actually that in itself could be like an interesting LAMP component. So I'm just going to rotate this guy. Let's see here. Yes. I can either do like a polar array or I can rotate it. I got lots of options. I'm just going to start here. From this intersection, I'll rotate it over here. And I will copy it. And then this one, I'm going to rotate it and copy it as well over to here. And let's see. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just rotating a bunch of, these sections in various ways to make some sort of really interesting geometry, some bump outs, some going in. Just having fun. It's your LAMP. You do what you want to do. And so we've got a odd number, so, maybe we'll do half and half. And if we wanted to do that, I'm not going to do half and half. I'm just going to keep it simple. If you want to do half and half, that's awesome. So I've got my pieces here, and then what I can do is actually mirror the rest of these. So I've got that locked. I'm going to just take this and move it to the base geo layer, and then I'll be working in that base geo layer. And what I can do next is probably actually just going to mirror this. So in my front view, because the dodecahedron, the center of it was at the center, or shared the same center point was shared by the coordinate system, I can just type in 0 and mirror it, but then I have to rotate it because dodecahedron is not an exact mirror along the XY plane in this orientation. So I'm just going to have to snag a common point, which, that should be a common point right there, and then rotate it to that other point here. Oh, there you go. And then I will turn copy off and hit enter. Well, looks like I should have turned copy off in the first place, but I'll just delete that old info. So there we go, and it looks like I've got an extra bit of info here. I think I'm just going to delete that one for now, and then I should have another extra one, which is actually, yes, right here, this one, or this one. And I think I'm going to delete that inner one. So I've got all this cool cool geometry, some weird stuff. Now, if I wanted to, I could make this a little more interesting, and maybe I cap these ends here. Maybe let's just do cap. And I got these two caps, but I'm going to explode it, because what I'm thinking of is maybe I'll just use this geometry here, and I could maybe put a design in here or something like that. When I unroll it. If I unroll it, I'll get my my polygon that I can then maybe draw inside of it or something like that. and have a design. And this is actually, it might be subtle, but this does have an inner design that's been cut out of one of the surfaces. And so it's something to consider doing. And so if we were to look at this, why don't we move forward with that idea? And oh, did I just delete it? Oh, there we go. There it is. I can copy this around and cap other things and go forward from there. So, oh, this is an inner and an out. Oh, man, I'm getting a little confused here. This is where I think maybe it's a good idea to let's add another layer that's inner pieces and then, oh, outer pieces. And I think we're going to get pretty close to being done with this video because the next video we're going to talk about how we can construct those connectors. Oh, there's no bottom. Mind blown. I think we should just make the bottom a outie. Maybe I should call this belly button lamp. Geometric belly button. Change those to a different color and then hide them. And we should have all outies, which is perfect. Select these, move objects to this layer, change the color to a magenta. Oh wow, that's super overpowering to my brain. That's a lot better. Yeah. Cool. So then what I can do is I can go through and cap all of these guys, and I'm going to go back to my outers, my innies, and cap just the interior ones. So what I mean by that is I'm going to cap, explode, and then what I'll have is this interior curve here. So when I'm looking at both of these, I'll have innies and outies going all the way around, and I can have a design on here. And it'll be super cool and fun. So in the next video, we'll have this completely capped off and we can then talk about how we're going to connect all of these. So I hope you enjoyed this video. My apologies that I didn't expand this window sooner, but I will